Welcome to the Loaded Goat. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Christopher.
And Christopher is up close and personal today.
Up close and personal. I'm on the iPad because it's very cold here, Aaron, and I think the internet is having an issue. The chemtrails aren't quite tracking with the Wi-Fi, and so it's not filtering down correctly into my community. So my internet's been struggling today.
I'm sorry to hear that. It's really cold here too today, actually.
Should we play a numbers game?
I don't.
We can all just be cold.
I think we can all just be cold. I mean, you saw Yellowstone and said, "Hey, I want to go and stake out my piece of land and become a cattle baron." And I'm sorry it gets cold. I'm sorry it gets cold from time to time. I'm out here in Northern Virginia. It doesn't snow here that much, but it is right now.
The snow drought is over. Happy snow day, Aaron.
Yeah. It's been fun, but I don't really get a snow day. I still have to work.
No, poor guy. I'm so sorry to hear that.
I know, you don't seem very sympathetic at all.
Don't meet your heroes, kids.
Are you grumpy because your favorite characters are back and we're breaking down an episode?
Yes, absolutely.
So I've got good news for you. This is the last time we see the Fun Girls.
That's what I like to hear. My feelings toward the Fun Girls stay the same.
This episode we're doing today, the arrest of the Fun Girls, I would say, Chris, it may just be all relative for Christopher, but for me, this is the weakest Fun Girl episode by far.
I think this is a classic, very much on par with all the other Fun Girls episodes.
So you don't think the level of quality drops with this episode?
Nope. Steady as she goes.
Okie dokie. Well, do you want to dive in?
Yeah, I love talking about the Fun Girls. Let's do it.
You see, I appreciate your enthusiasm. This episode first aired on April 5th, 1965. We open with Andy, Hal, and Barney and Thelma Lou talking about their double date and trying to pick a restaurant. Barney says he's fine with anywhere, but he keeps shooting down every restaurant because he's so cheap, even going so far as to call Wiener Schnitzel.
So this is what I wanted to do. When I lived in DC and you'd have, this is a classic scenario, right? Like, what do we want to do? Where do we want to eat? You get bored with your own routines. So there are two things I thought would be fun. You've got a Lonely Planet travel guide for your home so that when you don't know what to do, you look to see what a tourist would do and you try to do something through the day. The other thing I thought would be cool to do is you make a Plinko board on the back of your door and you put all the suggestions at the bottom and then you drop the little Plinko piece down and then you do whatever it landed on.
I'm okay with either one of those ideas. Fortunately, you've got Randy Turner's Mayberry Travel Guide. So that could help folks pick out where they're wanting to go to dinner if they're in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good call.
Yeah. Do you have a travel guide for Helena, Montana?
Yeah, it's Yellowstone. You just talked about it. No, we do not have a travel guide.
Okay.
There's some AARP or, not AARP, AAA has some travel guides. It's mostly like check out your casinos.
Lonely Planet does have a Montana guide, doesn't it?
Yeah, but they don't really touch on the the beauties of the cities.
Well, they should. I think I've always found that they do always let you know what the culinary options are when you come to town.
Yeah, well,
like what's it, Dave's Sushi?
Exactly like Dave's Sushi.
Food poisoning incident there that's not funny, but it's probably being taken out of the Lonely Planet book if it's there.
Yep. This place is still open. Friend's dad still goes there.
Okay.
He likes it because there are no lines anymore.
He doesn't get the mushrooms, I assume.
No mushrooms.
No mushrooms. Okay. So Andy remembers that they have a conference call with the Highway Patrol, and they agree to meet up for dinner.
Suspicious timing, though.
I mean, it is kind of like, oh, wait, we have a conference call. I mean, it is a little bit like,
At 10 p.m.?
At 10 p.m.?
That's like Mayberry middle of the night. That's 3 a.m. in Mayberry.
It's pretty late. But they're okay with it. They agree to meet up for dinner, and then they're going to go back and do their call. But Andy and Barney come up with or they agree to, actually, I don't, this timeline is so convoluted. Like like they do the call and then he goes to meet him for dinner. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And then they agree to meet up for dinner, but Andy and Barney come up with a plan so they won't have to go dancing. And I'm just kind of like, who's good? They're going to make them go dancing. Where are they going to go dancing?
I know.
Halloween night in Mayberry.
Yeah. The local sock hop.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. So they hear someone blaring the horn and speeding through town, and Andy and Barney chase them down. It is, drum roll, the Fun Girls. And they just wanted to get Andy and Barney's attention. And a crowd is gathering, and Barney tries to break it up. And Andy says they need to get them out of town. This whole thing is so silly because you're kind of like, what is it with these if they're speeding like that, you can put them in jail or you can run them out of town or you can do whatever. The whole thing's kind of goofy.
Well, can I refresh my gripe on the Fun Girls?
Yeah, by all means.
Thank you. They make Andy and Barney their lowest, most degenerate selves. They turn them into the writers turn them into liars, to cheats, and they don't actually like. It's not actually like the Fun Girls. They make Andy and Barney make all these stupid decisions in a way that isn't not becoming. It's not really funny, but it's also like unlike anything else of how Andy behaves. Like it makes sense for Barney, but it's not how Andy behaves in any other facet of the show or his life. And the fact that like this one person would be able to like dislodge him from his morality and his desire to not lie, and he becomes someone that's like hiding things or he's trying to get someone out of the county. It's just out of character.
It's out of character.
They're not funny enough to make it work.
Well, it's out of character, I will agree. And the stuff they do is just, it's not like they're, okay, I'm going to ask this, and I don't want you to be crass when I ask you this question. How wild do you think the Fun Girls are?
I think they're your classic woo girl from the How I Met Your Mother episode.
So do you think they hook up with guys and do stuff, or do you think they're just goofy, silly women?
I'm not in a position to comment on that. I'm operating under the intention that they're goofy, silly women.
All right, let's go with them being goofy, silly women. That's all they are. Goofy, silly women, not floozies, not women trying to break up marriages or anything like that. They're just goofy, silly women.
Yeah,
but the
who yell a lot, as evidenced by that one woman's voice. I mean, they're like party girls. You know, they're staying out to the clubs till 5 a.m. They're smoking. They're yelling. They're losing their cell phones. They're making it everybody's problem. They're getting They're crashing bottle service. They're getting kicked out of clubs. Like they're like that.
Do you think they're? So you think they can? So you think the Fun Girls, if they're going out, Daphne or Skippy has a drunken cry at some point when they're hanging out in the evening?
At like 7 drunken cries.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So, but the thing of it is you're talking about them getting Andy and Barney to just go like the most degenerate form of themselves is still, they're still pretty innocent. I mean, all they're doing is just trying to keep these women from dancing with them and not causing a ruckus. I don't know why they can't just come clean to Helen and Thelma Lou and say, I don't know what it is about these women, but we're not doing anything with them and we just need to get them out of town. Would you help us?
Correct.
I mean,
correct. That would be a more interesting episode.
Yeah. I mean, like Thelma Lou and Helen and the Fun Girls, what they have in common and what they don't have in common, But that's not what happens with this episode or other Fun Girls episodes. And they take them to the county line and we cut to them all hugging up on Andy and Barney. They want a ticket, which I don't know why they want a ticket because they're just goofballs. And then Andy says they'll go over to Mount Pilot, find them, and give them a ticket then. And they leave, and Barney looks like he looks like they've done more than dance with him. He looks like a disheveled mess.
Barney becomes a disheveled mess very easily.
That's true. And the Fun Girls bring it out pretty fast.
Yeah.
So back at the jail,
being a hot mess is contagious. I don't know if you've noticed that, but it is.
You mean for
you're around one hot mess? If you're around one hot mess, everybody around them usually becomes a hot mess. It's a contagion.
And I will tell you that I agree with you, and that often boils down to how much power the hot mess has, or how much power you give the hot mess.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Like there's this one time, I'm just kidding. I don't really have any real, I don't really want to go.
Name some names. Name some names.
There was this one time we were recording a podcast and you showed up and you were a hot mess. And lo and behold, the podcast became a hot mess.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah. All right. But let's not open old wounds. So back at the jail, Andy is on the phone with the highway patrol getting instructions and Barney is writing them down. And this is actually kind of funny because Barney's like, "Oh, what'd you want me to cover?" Or he's almost like where he just says the most mundane little fact, and Barney's like, "No, I wrote it all down," which is pretty funny. And they hang up and they go to meet Helen and Thelma Lou, but there is a knock at the door, and the Fun Girls are back and they want a party.
No boy, chaos ensues.
Yeah, and Andy says they'll lock them in a jail cell and he'll go take care of Helen and Thelma Lou. He shuts them in the jail and they start playing a ukulele. That's Andy, Helen, and Thelma Lou.
The one thing that could make the Fun Girls more annoying.
A ukulele.
Yeah. Poorly played instrument.
Yeah. So they're at dinner. Andy's told them that Barney had to book prisoners from the state police and he's uncomfortable, and Helen smells perfume, and everybody knows something's not right. And back at the jail, Otis comes in staggering drunk and lets himself into the Fun Girls' cell, and all three of them freak out. No, if they had taken this scene and just said, we're going to make this the twist of the episode and almost called it Otis and the Fun Girls, that would have been.
I agree. That would have been a great.
That would have been a lot of fun. But that does not happen. And at the diner, Andy is trying to rush back to meet Barney, and Helen and Thelma Lou are skeptical. And he goes to pay the check, and Thelma Lou says they should go by to cheer Barney up as we go to commercial.
Things are getting bad.
Things are getting bad. After the break, Andy is protesting the idea, but they ignore him and head over. And back at the jail, Otis is gone. I would have just loved more Otis. I can't say this enough. I would have loved Otis and the Fun Girls just going at it.
Another missed opportunity.
I mean, it probably was not good probably not kosher or proper for 1965 to have Otis and to have Otis and the Fun Girls getting drunk and carrying on a conversation. But God, that would have been so funny.
Yeah, it would have been excellent.
It would have been excellent. Yeah. And so Daphne and Skippy are chastising Barney for being such a square, and they keep turning the lights on and off. I mean, they are just,
agents of chaos.
Agents of chaos, just trouble. And like trouble like a 13-year-old boy, 13-year-old boy trouble. Just goofy stuff. Yeah. And so the squad car pulls up to the jail, and Andy tells Helen and Thelma Lou to wait outside. And he goes in and says they have to get them out the back, and they start to go, and Helen and Thelma Lou come in, and they are mad, and they storm off. And then Andy gets mad and tells them to leave, and he's irritated at this point, which he should have been irritated to begin with. And Skippy starts crying, and she and Daphne storm off, and every time Barney tries to speak, Skippy says, "Shut up, Bernie, just shut up." And then they leave, and Andy basically says, "We've lost 4 girls and 1 drunk," which may be the funniest line of the episode. And then Barney tries to blame the whole thing on Andy, who says, "Shut up, Bernie, just shut up," which is...
I think I like that line. That's my favorite line of the episode.
Yeah. And the next morning, Andy is trying to make up with Helen, who is still mad and giving him the cold shoulder. They agree to talk it out after dinner. And they cut to Barney.
This is a really intense scene. Sitting in the car, 8 a.m.
Well, it's also like, I mean, you've been married for quite some time. I've been married for quite some time. Trying to have a talk it out after trying to talk something out at that early in the morning. That's not a good place to. That's not a good place to be.
That's a commitment. That's a commitment.
Yeah, you gotta, you don't really want to have to do that, and you definitely don't want to. And if you're going to be doing it, you don't want to have to do it because you mishandled two bozos from Mount Pilot. But Barney's doing the same thing, who is not believing that the Fun Girls forced their way in. She says she forgives them and then leaves as Barney is trying to give her a kiss. And Barney goes to the jail, and he and Andy both say they are forgiven and they hope dinner will work. And Barney says he's been thinking about it and that their only crime is that they're attracted to women.
They haven't learned much.
Not much at all. And the four of them show up that night at the Taylor household, and Aunt Bea is nervous because the Fun Girls come running out to say they still want to be friends, and Helen and Thelma Lou storm off. And this is a rare ending about what we're about to go to, because the Fun Girls put the music on and start dancing, and Barney says, well, since it's Saturday night, they are good dancers. And then we go to commercial, which is kind of funny, but it's not really. I mean, especially when the show went to syndication and they would just chop off the epilogue. It's an odd way to end it's an odd way to end
I didn't think about that. It's like, oh, well, yeah, they're our girlfriends now.
Yeah. This episode was produced by Pod Machine. They do a great podcast at a great rate. I was fortunate to get started on this a few years ago, and I've just been very, very pleased with it ever since. I mean, they will edit your podcast. They will do artwork for your podcast. They'll do the YouTube videos for the podcast, and they have a very quick turnaround time once you upload all your material. So I highly recommend it.
I'm pro pod in general. I love bean pods. I like pod hotels. I like pod apples, maybe. But you know what pods I like best? Pod machines.
Pod machines. Me too.
I like them better than podcasts. I honestly don't even really like podcasts that much. So I'm just thankful that you're here.
Why do you do this podcast?
To see your dimples, baby.
To see my dimples. Well, and if you really push hard, my Pod Machine might be able to give you some dimples. I don't know. So go to podmachine.com to learn more and enter Loaded Goat at checkout for a 10% discount.
And that's spelled just like Loaded Goat.
In the epilogue, Barney and Andy are sitting on a bench talking about how they made up with Thelma Lou and Helen. And just then, a jalopy with two women speed by, doing at least 50 miles an hour. And Andy and Barney decide they're not speeding at all and not to worry about it. And he says if they come back, they'll go inside. And we close.
Let's close. I kind of like the no epilogue closure better.
I mean, I guess you had to know that they made up, and obviously for other things. I mean, it is one that, it's the fight's so dumb that it's going to work out. But it is one of those things where you're always like, how many times? I mean, like we always joke about Seinfeld's thing of no hugging, no learning. The Fun Girls there's definitely no learning on any episode with the Fun Girls.
No, absolutely not.
So let's do the same thing over and over. I will agree. I think your observation about the Fun Girls is spot on. It's very keen. It's very insightful. And it makes me see this in a different way. I still think they're really funny. Just because I still think they're really funny. Just because this is how I grew up. I mean, when you're 10 years old or 9 years old and you're seeing Daphne and Skippy dancing with Barney or them acting silly, it's just hilarious to you.
Well, I'm glad that I haven't ruined your boyhood innocence.
I mean, that was ruined a long time before you came along, but I still enjoy. I still find them funny.
Good.
So, how many whistles would you give this?
Fun Girl 4.
Fun Girl 4. Okay, I'll go 6. It's the weakest of the Fun Girls episodes, but I find
Sassy Sister 6.
I still find them entertaining. Any final thoughts?
No, good riddance, Fun Girls. On and go into your, Las Vegas doom hole.
So let's actually break this down. They don't show up in Return to Mayberry, although it would have probably been kind of funny if they did. But let's say, where do you think the Fun Girls ended up?
Oh, they keep going out. The the parties just keep getting sadder.
So you don't think the fun girls ever meet one of the fun girls meet Mr. Right?
Oh, I think so. But but then that becomes its own hot mess in and of itself.
So I would imagine if
Joins a PTA,
I don't see the fun girls doing the PTA. I could see the fun girls marrying, each of them marrying a guy who gets into his own set of trouble.
I can see that. Yeah.
Or you could see them marrying some traveling salesman,
Mm-hmm. Or a nice pastor, because they're lost, they need someone that can provide some foundation in their life.
Well, thanks for listening. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. And if you think about it, subscribe. Next week, we'll do the luck of Newton Monroe. Until then, Christopher, our biggest trend is that we're attracted to women.
Hello, doll.